Hey, welcome to Cinema on the Rocks. My name is Jay, and I have my guest with me today,
Jonathan.
and we are going to be talking about the history of James Bond for the new movie that is coming out on Thursday called No Time to Die, Daniel Craig's last outing. But I have not seen anything more than the Craig films and one of the last of Pierce Brosnan's films and Dr. No, but he's seen them all.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here and talk with you, Jay. I know that James Bond has always been part of my life. He's kind of, the man's man, that kind of view. With that, James Bond's kind of gone through a lot.
He has, from what I know.
Some people have said the reason why James Bond has been able to make, coming on, 24, 25 films?
I think it's the 25th one.
I think there might be another one in there that you don't count. But we're coming on a lot of films. And with that, James Bond is always adapting. It's kind of a funny thing. When this new James Bond came out, he wasn't my favorite. And he didn't really feel like James Bond. Daniel Craig, like his first few movies where I'm like, that is not James Bond. But it's because James Bond was responding to a time, which is the Bourne Supremacy movies.
Those I've actually seen before I ever watched James Bond. Like I watched all 4 of the Bourne movies, like even the terrible Legacy movie, but we won't get into that because this isn't about that. Skyfall was my first James Bond film that I watched because beforehand I saw that there was the other ones and I'm like, I don't really care about this action movie stuff. I like Iron Man. I don't like some guy in a suit who's British. And then my dad took me to see Skyfall when it came out. I was like, wow, this is really good. I should go watch the other ones, but not the other ones, right. The other Daniel Craig ones.
It's funny. I think Skyfall for me was the moment that Daniel Craig became James Bond. There's a scene in the beginning of the movie, and he's like doing this chase scene through the city, and all of a sudden he grabs a bike and like picks it up, straightens his tie, and then goes. And I was like, James Bond's responded. But I will ask you, because we were talking about the other Daniel Craig movies. Do you feel that that same vibe that we get in those other movies from like the Bourne movies? Do you see that similar?
I would say the cinematography can be somewhat there. Obviously, it's not shaky camera the entire movie. Man, you might as well have called Bourne the found footage legacy. But it's better acted. He's not on the run the entire time, but what I thought at first with some of the James Bond movies was that he always seemed to be on the run from his own government, and yet I think maybe Quantum Solace was the only one they tried to rein him in with.
Yeah, I will say, since my point is to say that like James Bond is always responding to the times, always able to keep up with what's going on. Did you know there's actually a classic James Bond movie where James Bond doesn't use his famous gun, but rather uses a 44 Magnum?
Doesn't sound that would be almost like him using a Gutenberg.
Yeah, it comes out right after Dirty Harry.
So that's why.
Mm-hmm.
Also, good on me for knowing how to say the German word for the other gun.
Yeah.
Or Tommy gun.
Tommy gun, that's very different.
No, but that's also something you wouldn't expect to see from a James Bond.
No.
He doesn't use American-made weapons. Or I'm getting that American-made.
Well, what's funny is the gun he uses is a German gun. The Walther PPK.
Is that the one that's got like the
little... The gun he uses in almost every movie.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the one that's like the one they use like in Nazi Germany. Like the
No, not that. That's called a Luger.
Oh. That sounds disgusting.
So there's a lot of history when it comes to James Bond. You said you watched Dr. No.
Yes, I watched it a couple months ago to prepare for this movie because I thought the new villain might be Dr. No, and they're just not telling us. But I don't think that's the case anymore.
I don't think so either.
And I just didn't find it that exciting. Like I understand it's the 60s, but like I feel like they brought someone in, and maybe he wasn't always this action aficionado. He was more of a spy, not a I'm gonna basically blow up and shoot things all the time. It felt more reminiscent of what Casino Royale was trying to be. The new one, obviously. But I don't know. There are a lot of similarities, though, between what we've already seen in the trailers for No Time to Die, though, and Doctor No that isn't the villain. Like, what's the CIA agent that he meets up with? Felix. Felix. He meets him in the first time in Doctor No in Jamaica, which is where he is currently retired to.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm really excited to see Felix again. Felix is a classic. He is. You will find him throughout James Bond movies.
Now, I remember him from Casino Royale. That was the first time we saw him in Daniel Craig's movies.
Yeah.
He wasn't in Quantum of Solace, was he?
I feel like
he was briefly to get information on the guy who basically.
He wasn't in Skyfall though.
I know he wasn't in Skyfall or Spectre, but I had a feeling he has already been in 2 different movies.
Yeah, he was. He was in Quantum.
Maybe that's why I don't remember him being in it.
I feel like in both of those movies, he plays a really minor role.
Well, I mean, he doesn't really need to play a major role in the James Bond film. They want to keep the American help down to a very minimum.
You say that, but actually, when you look at like the 70s and the 80s, some of those James Bond movies, Felix plays a larger role in. And he might not be like the equivalent of James Bond. He's not the guy with the gun who's running in there and doing all the things. But he is helping, right? So like when James Bond needs help, especially like when you look at movies like Moonraker or A Spy Who Loved Me, for that age, all these James Bond movies ended with these like big, epic army on army battle scenes. Yeah.
In those ones?
In those movies.
They had like armies?
Yeah, I say army. That's
okay, thing, more than like, just a bad guy versus Bond.
Yeah, there would be like good guys who would show up. Like, especially Moonraker. Moonraker is bizarre because you have like space battle happening. And they've got like laser guns. Which shows you again how James Bond is always trying to respond to the times.
I feel like that would seem odd, but we just got a Fast and Furious movie that had them going into space. Anything's possible at this point. Besides, they did. I know they spoofed that in Goldmember, I think.
Golden. Wait, what?
The Austin Power movies.
Oh yes.
Like The Spy Who Shagged Me. That's great.
Yeah.
Although I feel like that's more I think the Austin Powers, and maybe this will make sense. Austin Powers is to the James Bond movies. Hard.
Spaceballs to Star Wars.
Well, that could be one. We'll go with that for now because I had a better one than that. But it is like the Adam West Batman series to the Dark Knight.
That's pretty bad.
It is.
So I have a question for you though. Do you think this is actually going to be his last movie?
Daniel Craig's?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Why do you say that?
He's getting too old.
He's getting too old.
He knows that he has a bigger franchise he can now go to. Like he didn't get very many movies between the James Bond films. But now that he's got Knives Out and he's got 2 more movies of that he has, I think he's ready to hang it up and let someone else take over. Which, if I can briefly mention, he is one of the very few actors, from what I've actually read, who knew that their last movie was going to be their last movie. But there's a majority of the actors who played, which isn't, again, that many. They made their movie and then they didn't play it again. They didn't really know that was going to be their last. I'm pretty sure George Lazenby didn't know that was going to be his last film.
Yeah, actually, but so you bring up that point, right? So we have the original James Bond. We have the James Bond. He made 5 movies.
Yeah.
And then we have this movie, which most of us who are James Bond fans try not to talk about, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Came out in 1969. And it was awful. Like, I try not to think of it as a James Bond movie at all. It's so bad. It's uncomfortable. There's things that happen in it. You're just like, this doesn't feel like Bond. And because of that, we have the return and the comeback, the grand comeback of Sean Connery, right?
Right.
So we have this one-off movie, and then Sean Connery comes back in 1971. So that makes him making 6 movies.
And what was the year gap between his last time playing and this?
67 and then 71. So we're talking 4 years.
Oh, okay. I could have sworn he did one like 10 years after his original.
We'll get there in a second.
Oh, that hasn't happened.
So this movie comes out. It's called Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
When Sean Connery finishes this movie, he's like, I'm never playing James Bond again. I'm done. These are like exact quotes are him saying, never going to play James Bond.
Because times got tough.
After that, you have Roger Moore hitting the scene. Roger Moore is considered to be one of people's favorites, James Bonds. He's up there with the Sean Connery. I think after Lazenby was such a terrible thing, and Diamonds Are Forever, Connery's starting to get a little bit old.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he was wearing either a wig or a toupee, even with the originals.
Oh, he was wearing a toupee in Dr. No.
Oh, I wonder why he looked so weird.
Why do you think he's my hero?
Oh, so he was definitely bald before that point. They put hair on him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How did they? I don't understand how they managed to put him in water scenes then.
Good toupee. What's interesting though is the franchise is going great and things are going well. There's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies being made. 5 movies made. Roger Moore starts getting a little bit older.
Right. I've heard the interviews with him on that.
Yeah. And the franchise actually had a split. The people who were making the movies got into an argument and they split some of the control.
Yeah, I heard that there are certain films that are non-Eon films and then ones that are within it. And they couldn't use Blowfield in some of them because of that, or they couldn't show footage from other movies that were not in that.
Mhm.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It does.
Logistically speaking.
And because of that, in 1983, you have a Roger Moore movie come out, which is one of his best movies called Octopussy. If you've never seen it, I highly suggest that. That's like one of the best James Bond movies of them all. And you have Never Say Never Again.
Which is...
It's a play on words.
Yeah, let me guess. They used that because he said he would never play James Bond again.
Yep.
I bet you he loves that.
Because Sean Connery said he would never play Bond again, and all of a sudden he's coming back in 1983. So catch that. His last movie he made was 71.
Wow, so 12 years.
12
later.
years, and that's after he had stopped playing James Bond for 4 years before that. You're like, what in the world? So Never Say Never Again is a little bit of a strange movie. It's good because Sean Connery is the James Bond, but he is old.
Oh, I bet.
He's definitely showing his age at that point. He moves differently. It's a little bit awkward seeing him with like the women and stuff like that. You're
Oh,
like,
so he's still with the young women.
yeah, pretty much.
Wonder if he was older than Roger Moore was when he was like, I'm not gonna have another Bond girl that's my daughter's age.
So that is the next Roger Moore movie because Roger Moore makes one more movie after that in 1985.
Oh,
And that's whenever Roger Moore he's also showing his age.
that doesn't. Okay, so that makes sense. Why have? Is this because? So the Never Say Never Again is one of those productions that's not under the certain belt, and that's why they made 2 of them in 1 year.
Yeah.
Why Roger Moore still? So basically, Never Say Never Again is almost like a non-canonical.
Actually,
movie.
yeah. So if you buy like a James Bond collection,
It's not in it.
it's most of the time it's not in it.
That's weird. You think it would be?
Sometimes they'll put it in there like as a bonus thing,
Mhm.
but like as a whole, it's like over here.
Wow. I bet you probably made more than a lot of theirs.
I'm actually trying to remember when it came out. Because I think they came out even like not that far apart from each other,
Right.
which is crazy.
I still bet you that because it's Sean Connery, it probably made more money than the Roger Moore ones were doing.
I don't know. Octopussy is considered one of Roger Moore's like probably his best movie.
His best.
Yeah, it's really good. Like I said, it's one of the best of all James Bond, but it is probably Roger Moore's best. After that, you have another James Bond who's okay. And this is something that, we always have to remember as a whole, when you have a really great something, normally a really meh something comes afterwards.
Right.
So you have like again, like I said, Octopussy is one of the best James Bonds ever. So maybe it brings Roger Moore up in the scale of James Bonds. And then you have Timothy Dalton, who barely makes 2 movies.
His name sounds familiar, and I know the guy's face, but I can't tell you what else he's been in that I've seen him in.
You would know Timothy Dalton, like hardcore. He's in a lot of things. He's in 2 James Bond movies. He's in. That's weird.
Now, quick question.
He's in The Tourist. Somehow he's in Toy Story 3. Toy Story 4. Let me see the voice actor for one of the main characters.
So there's one character you didn't mention. Well,
he even makes a guest appearance in Chuck.
Wait, this makes no sense. What I'm reading here. We didn't mention that one of the non-Enoch. Oh, that's dumb. No wonder you didn't mention Casino Royale from 1967. It's a spy parody comedy.
I don't even know what that is.
There's an original. It's loosely based off of the same name, Casino Royale, which has David Niven as original Bond, forced out of retirement, and then there's. Oh, this just sounds so dumb. This came out the same year as You Only Live Twice.
Came out in 1967?
Yeah, but you look at that list and see how many of them also say James Bond in them. That I can see why you didn't bring that up, because
James Bond's daughter? I don't even know what this movie is.
I don't know. Columbia Pictures made it, and it's a non-Eon film, so obviously it's not canonical. But
I need to find out where this movie can be watched.
yeah, apparently it was a financial success at 41 million for the 60s. I guess that's good.
Yeah, it's really good for the 60s.
But all of them say James Bond in their respective cast title.
Yeah, well, because they all have they're family members of his. I've never seen something with him having a family. He marries once in the series, which was a big deal.
Well, I mean, he also tried to settle down like several times recently.
Yeah.
And they all either die or betray him.
It's a pretty big deal. Whenever the one time he marries in like original canon, his wife dies at the end of the movie.
And which one was that?
Yeah, I actually don't remember. I'm trying to remember.
I'm checking something for you in terms of where you can watch that other one.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
So you can watch it apparently. Oh, no. I guess you can't watch it there either. Never mind.
Oh yeah, that is the Unspeakable movie.
What?
That she dies in the Unspeakable movie.
Oh, is that what it's called? Or
No, in on Her Majesty's Secret Service, the movie we don't talk about.
oh, so apparently you can watch Casino Royale on Vudu.
Yeah, because you can watch anything on Vudu.
Yeah, you can. But they don't have Spectre as the villain. They have Smirsh. I mean, I guess they can't use. I think that's the thing. They can't use Spectre in the non-Eon films. They can't even mention it because it's
probably owned by that part.
It is.
That makes sense. That's like the 2009 Star Trek movies.
What? They can't.
They have to be 30% different from the originals because they weren't fully owned by Paramount at the time.
Oh, now they are 100% owned.
Now, so everything's connected again. I was gonna say the other interesting time that you have is like looking through the history of James Bond. So you have the 2 Timothy Dalton movies, which some people like. I'm not really a huge Timothy Dalton fan. And then you get into Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan is a really interesting selection because for one, he does have 4 movies, so that's relatively a successful James Bond.
Yeah, it's a long career.
It's a decent length career, 95 to 2002. He's big hit or miss, and I think it's interesting. I think the biggest reason why he's hit or miss is actually the fact that it was the 90s. It has nothing to do with his acting or what he was doing. I think it's because times were changing.
Point Break came out and people were like, we want to see more of that.
As well as like when you get to the end of Pierce Brosnan, it's right before the Daniel Craig era starts, right? And so that's where you see Daniel Craig has this radical shift where he doesn't act like traditional James Bond. He acts more like that Bourne Identity style.
Right.
And Pierce Brosnan is still classic James Bond. He's got all the gadgets and all the toys and all the.
So, do we know when the first Bourne came out?
I don't remember.
Because the only one that I could see that would be close to where I think James Bond had come out was Die Another Day, where they were around the same as the first movie. Because I think those were early 2000s.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up.
But I know that because I'm looking at this thing, that GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, and The World Is Not Enough all came out before 2000. And those were actually the most successful. I mean,
So
yeah,
2002.
Mhm.
So the first Bourne movie came out, the last Pierce Brosnan movie.
Yes.
And that's where I think you start seeing like people.
The one I watched.
People in that culture wanted that experience. They wanted the Bourne Identity. They wanted that rougher, more gritty experience. I think,
Right.
especially because to touch on the touchy subject, we had just come out of 9/11, and we wanted our spies to be
Ruthless.
ruthless,
Like
yeah.
assassins.
Mhm.
Here's the problem, though, with Die Another Day, other than the fact that it has way too much CGI. And yes, it's early 2000s, so CGI was a bit more rough back then.
Mhm.
But they tried to make it ruthless, like like those kind of movies. The problem is they also went over the top in terms of campiness. I feel like they didn't pick just one way to go.
I think the struggle with Die Another Day is, like I said, I think it just hit the wrong age. It was still a movie from the 90s. And like if you look at the Pierce Brosnan movies, most of them, his enemy is
American or British?
is either Russia or Asia.
Well, from what I'm seeing here, and I'm assuming because you'll be able to say, Sean Bean was the villain in GoldenEye.
Yeah,
That's funny.
So GoldenEye is a Russian-based movie, right?
Okay.
So
he plays a Russian, basically.
He plays a double agent.
Oh, okay.
But you see, like we're still coming at that point. The Cold War had only ended in the 80s. You're still kind of recovering from that stuff. So there's still some Russia, like what if Russia could be bad again? So that there you've got that, and then you have Tomorrow Never Dies, which paints what if there were people who were doing bad things in the background of China. Not actually China's government, but just the background. What have you had? And then you have the world is not enough, which goes back to what if there's bad people in Russia?
Well, then Die Another Day is Korea.
Die Another Day is Korea.
And then somehow person doesn't die in the opening and changes their face and everything like that.
Yeah.
That was dumb.
It was. I view that as a Mission Impossible influence.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Mission Impossible did it better.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing though. James Bond's willing to adapt, right? So Mission Impossibles were big right then.
Okay. So if the last two before Die Another Day were in the 90s, right? Those came out. Well, Tomorrow Never Dies, and then The World's Not Enough. Those both came out after the first Mission Impossible movie. Mm-hmm. And then Mission Impossible 2 came out, I think, the same year as the last Die Another Day movie.
Did it come out in 2002 as well?
I believe so. MI2 came out 2000. Never mind.
Yeah. So that's what you're seeing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that one a little more than I get Bourne.
What do you mean?
I get Mission Impossible influences in Die Another Day more than I would get Bourne. Because Mission Impossible 2.
No, I'm saying that Bourne Identity affects Casino Royale.
Oh.
Not Die Another Day. I think that Casino Royale affects the sales of Die Another Day. I think the Bourne movies are an evidence that the culture had changed. And they didn't want the James Bond of the 90s or the 80s or the 70s or the 60s. They wanted a grittier, more grungy James Bond, the kind that bleeds.
Right. So you're saying that the Bourne movies is what caused the new Daniel Craig James Bond to be the way he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that with Casino Royale, and I don't know what they were thinking with Quantum of Solace. I think there's a lot of issues behind that one, not just the fact that it was being written during the writer's strike.
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I still don't even know what Quantum of Solace is really about. Like,
Yeah, no.
like
He kills. Quantum of Solace is an irritating movie. It starts off with a premise of he has the Mr. White at the end, and he's trying to, go for Spectre and figure out what that organization is. And then it quickly delves into some lady that he decides he has a thing for briefly, and finds out that
she's the bad guy.
the boyfriend or whoever the abusive guy is that she's with owns some shell company in a random place to stop water from getting to town. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
I don't even think the guy is connected to Spectre in any way.
No, and the funny thing is, I don't even mind the idea of dealing with like small things. Like, I don't think we have to be always world ending when we do movies like this.
Right.
But that one, I was like,
Well, Casino Royale wasn't even a world ending.
No, I thought Casino Royale. I love the idea of doing small scale, right? Like, it's fun. But
Spectre wasn't even world ending. I don't think.
No, Spectre really wasn't either.
Skyfall wasn't either. None of them really are. I think the new one will be though. 100%.
Skyfall was. We're gonna let out all your information, right?
Yeah, but
that would be
wasn't
pretty.
yeah.
That would be pretty damaging to world governments.
But ultimately, the end wasn't trying to save the world. It was trying to save which failed.
Yeah, poor M.
Yeah, she's been around since the the Pierce Brosnan movies.
Yeah, she had. So I'm pretty sure she's up there for like the most movies.
She might be in more movies of James Bond than James Bond any actor has played.
I think she is straight up because she's in. Yeah, that and Q. Q's in a lot of movies.
Right, but Q not played by the same actor.
No. The same Q is in a lot of movies.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean guy whose name I can't remember, but I know movies he's been in.
I'm trying to remember how many he's in. I'm actually just gonna find him and then
I know he was in Monty Python, the guy who plays Q for a lot of movies, and Garfield too, which we won't talk about.
No, he's in a ton of movies. This is kind of crazy.
Let's see here. There was another thought I had. I think that it's possible that
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Skyfall
10,
got
11, 12,
12.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, he's in 18 Bond films.
Wow, that's a lot. That is.
He's in everything from. That's crazy. He's been in James Bond since.
Since like what, the earlier movies?
I'm trying to actually pull up. Yeah, since Thunderball. No, From Russia with Love.
Oh, that's based off the case thing that I showed you earlier.
Right? No, is it here? Is it here? Yeah, he's in the second movie.
Oh, really? That's the second movie?
From Russia with Love is the second James Bond movie ever made. So Q is the same Q from Russia with Love until.
Wasn't he in the Pierce Brosnan movies?
Yes, until I'm trying to remember. I think he's not in Die Another Day. I think he's in World.
I don't know. I think he might be, because if I remember him being in,
he dies.
Oh, does he?
He dies somewhere in there.
Oh, because I could have sworn I saw him in Die Another Day.
He dies in 99.
Yep, that's not the one.
So he goes. Yeah, He's from the second movie into the second to last Pierce Brosnan movie.
Wow.
There's your James Bond hero.
The guy who James Bond would be nothing without. Or dead.
Yeah. I think it's going to be hard for anyone to ever top that for being in the most James Bond movies.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not like we're not going to have another James Bond anytime soon.
You don't think we will?
I mean, we're going to be getting James Bond longer than we're probably going to get Star Wars movies. Because James Bond can just cast a new actor.
James Bond can just cast a new actor.
They've been doing it for the last 50 years or 60 years at this point.
As well as they always respond to the times, right?
Right.
Okay.
Although, at some point, they're going to have to stop making him a womanizer.
Probably pretty soon.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet that James Bond wouldn't make it another series if he doesn't stop that soon.
I will say, though, probably going to happen sooner than them making him a woman.
That's a conversation for another day.
Although I don't know if you'd be open to it, but I personally wouldn't have any issues if they got a British black actor to play it.
I think it's an interesting thought. I think
I mean, it could be an easy way of them responding to the times than just fully changing his gender.
I was like, that's not my favorite choice. I think there's a lot of other actor options, but I do have to say, because of the fact that James Bond's supposed to be Scottish, the Scottish heritage says that if you're adopted into a Scottish family, you're Scottish. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Right.
You're now 100% Scottish. So if there was going to be that opportunity to have a black man play James Bond, fortunately, James Bond is Scottish. So if he's adopted in, he's adopted in. That's that.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of casting fan favorites of who they want to play the next James Bond in like betting polls and stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of Bridgerton on Netflix.
I don't know Bridgerton, but
I've never watched it, but there's a main actor in it who is, I would say, more likely light-skinned than anything, who is currently a fan favorite because apparently everyone likes him. I've heard Idris Elba, but I think he's getting a bit old.
yeah, I think Idris Elba, I get that he has a James Bond air to him, but I think he's a bit old to start making James Bond movies.
People also want Henry Cavill, but he's like, as cool as that would be, and people could see it. I mean, he did Man from U.N.C.L.E., which was great. As an American, he could do Scottish, British.
British, yeah.
However, after seeing him become a villain in Mission Impossible, I'd rather see him fight against whoever's going to be James Bond.
I think he's a little big to be James Bond.
Yeah, but he could be a James Bond villain.
Yeah, he could be a great villain.
Just reloads those guns.
Yeah.
I don't need guns. I have them on my arms.
Now we're getting into that. Have to change with the times. Hopefully not.
What?
Well, it just makes me think of like Fast and Furious movies with that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, but there's a difference between that franchise and James Bond. I don't think James Bond will ever go. I feel like they're gonna continue with, not necessarily, like, they're gonna change a bit of the tone with the next iteration, but I don't think that they are going to stray too far from what they had, because these ones here have made them more money, except for Quantum of Solace. Actually, I think that one made 500 million at least. They're the top grossing Bond films, and I think No Time to Die might beat out Skyfall.
I actually think No Time to Die is going to be a huge success.
I think it's going to beat out Skyfall, and that's a big thing to push, considering we're still in pandemic times, technically speaking. And but it's releasing in every country so far except for China, which it will be releasing in October 22nd. And then it's releasing here, and the showing I'm going to on Thursday is already sold out. And I tried looking for different days, like the Monday after it, and it is sold out.
I'm really shocked because, like, for one, the movie, it's a long movie.
Yeah.
3 hours or what?
2 hours and 43 minutes.
2 hours and 43 minutes. Still, like, that's splitting hairs between that and 3 hours, to be honest.
It's about 20 minutes longer than the previous film, which I still can't believe. It has been 5 years.
Seriously, was the previous film, was Spectre almost 2.5 hours?
2 hours and 25 minutes.
See, I gotta say, for me, Daniel Craig, if Quantum of Solace had been his last movie, or even
Oh.
if they continued down the vein of Casino Royale or that feel, I probably would say he's one of the worst. But the shift that he made in Skyfall and the way he carried that through into Spectre.
I will say personally, even after watching, like Skyfall is still one of my favorite in his era, but Casino Royale is like a close second. I liked Casino Royale a lot. I liked the way they introduced him into it, a little bit of, his younger years, not, well, he was like still 40 then, but still younger than he is now and less experienced, but still enough to kill people and earn his 00.
I think the funniest thing though is that's what I have a problem with it partly is because Casino Royale is like, what if he was young? And then I can't remember if it's Skyfall or Spectre. They're like, you're old and worn out. Your ways of thinking about things are the past. And you're like, pick your lane, y'all. Pick your lane.
He was like in his 30s with that one. And then, 2 years later, then 4 years later, Skyfall. So, someone for him, they said his life expectancy for a 00 is not very long. So he's lived longer than most 00s.
Yeah,
probably
except for the original 007.
Right. That's because
movies for like 20 years.
That's because he retired and they couldn't force him out until he needed a paycheck.
Wow. Low blow, man. Low blow.
It's a 00.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Casino Royale is my second favorite. Spectre, and I've watched it back and back again now after having my original viewing of it. And I like it more than I did then, which is understandable why I didn't like it then, just because it was a step down from what Skyfall was, and that was going to be kind of hard to beat out. But I can appreciate it a lot more now, and I like the narrative that they flew. They went, oh, they're all Inspector, not Quantum of Solace. And I've been the author of all your pain. I was like, Christopher Waltz knows how to play a villain.
He does. He does a phenomenal job.
Which is why I'm excited to see what small little role he has in the new one.
Or not so small.
I don't know. I don't think Safin is part of the Spectre. I don't think they like the idea of some guy shooting off a bunch of missiles and possibly blowing up stuff in the world.
I'm just saying that maybe his role won't be small.
I've heard theories.
He is Mr. Blofeld.
I have heard theories.
Yeah.
I'd get into them, but I don't know if you want to go into the movie with any theory possibles.
I personally don't.
Yeah.
I want to go and just
Well, I also don't believe these theories because they seem a bit outlandish, especially with Madeline Walker.
Real quick, for things that I am really excited about. One serious problem I've had with Daniel Craig's James Bond movies is that he doesn't have a new Aston.
And he's going to not have a new Aston.
But he is.
Yeah, but at least...
I just hope that it's on screen for more time than the DB11 was.
In what, Skyfall?
In Skyfall.
Well, there will be significantly less bullet holes than the one in Skyfall.
And this new one?
Well, we've seen it in the trailer, I'm assuming.
So we've seen two cars in the trailer. We've seen the DB5 from the classic James Bond movies getting absolutely pulverized. And I'm willing to bet that that's in the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree. I would not be surprised if that is
the opening part of the movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either. I'm giving it 20 minutes because I'm trying to play it safe. And I bet that there's a new James Bond car. We've seen it in the commercials.
What, the one where he opens up the garage and it's in the garage?
I haven't seen that part.
Pretty sure that was in one of the trailers.
Maybe it was.
Either it's in one of the trailers or...
You've seen something extra.
Or that was old footage they used from Skyfall.
I think that's old footage from Skyfall.
He just looked older than he did in the Skyfall. I don't know.
Maybe. But there's an image of a new Aston Martin pulling out. And I'm hoping that that's in the movie, and I better have gadgets. I don't care if we act like gadgets aren't cool. Gadgets are cool.
Gadgets are cool until they use so many that it just makes the movie seem silly.
I don't want too many. Just want some. And
I
the
mean, that's why
car-
Q in Skyfall didn't have overly the top things.
I know it was too little though. There's a line, right?
Yeah,
There's a
how many
sweet spot.
gadgets did they use in Casino Royale?
0.
Yeah, so it's more than that.
It's more than that.
He wasn't trustworthy with gadgets yet.
No, I mean, and the thing is, like, some James Bonds, I get it. Some of them have been silly with stuff, but some of them have been really fun.
There's only one movie that I can consider using a lot of gadgets to not make it too silly. That's Kingsman.
But see, that's the thing, though, right? So Kingsman
Is like a parody of James Bond.
Kingsman
But
is a
it's
parody of James Bond.
More violent.
So that's what's interesting, right? So James Bond stopped being gadgets and this suave gentleman,
Yeah,
and people were like, "Yes, finally, James Bond's more gritty."
and then Kingsman.
And then Kingsman shot up, and I think it's because people still wanted James Bond to be James Bond, and that's why I think that you have the return of Skyfall, where James Bond kind of splits the difference, right?
They gave you a little bit of both.
He's a little bit more gritty, but he's still suave and like,
And then Spectre, they went, maybe we should tone it back way more than that.
I don't know. I really like
I think
Spectre.
Spectre kind of was more silly. Also,
What was silly in Spectre?
they just went more over the top and less. Like, I know James Bond is supposed to be over the top, but Skyfall to me is like the Dark Knight. And then Spectre is like the Dark Knight Rises, which is a bit much,
It's a bit backwards.
a bit long, and a bit over convoluted.
Bit over convoluted. Wow.
The only thing that I like about the thing that Spectre is that Dark Knight isn't, is Spectre didn't have a really dumb twist at the end in the last 10 minutes and show a different villain. Because we thought Bane was going to be the villain of Dark Knight Rises, and then it was the daughter of Tal, who was like,
which is a good twist.
and you just, oh, it's a good twist, but it was terribly executed.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
They made Bane into a henchman instead of a villain, which brings back Batman versus or Batman and Robin vibes, where he's just a henchman with Bane's rule.
All right. So, what else of James Bond do we need to discuss?
I've seen some of his cars from the older movies, and boy, did some of them look rough. They look. I'm like, James Bond drove that in a movie, and they thought that would look cool. Oof.
Okay, so let's go through that.
Especially the submarine car. That was
Really? So the submarine car is actually considered to be one of the coolest.
no, not the it. I understand cars didn't have the kind of paints they have now, but boy, did it not look that good. From it looked like the color was completely faded out of it.
Well, that was what was popular then. That's the thing to remember as well. What's I think was the weirdest error is, so he drives a few cars that are weird. In one movie, he drives a Citroen 2CV. That's a very strange little car. My favorite is whenever he drives, not my favorite, like, I don't like this car, but I think it's an interesting choice, is that one movie he drives a AMC Hornet. Another movie he drives a Ford Mustang Mach 1. So we think of James Bond and we think Aston Martin, right? That's the first car he ever drove. But there are other vehicles that he's driven through the years, and it's weird. He's driven a Mercury Cougar. There's a lot of strange cars that James Bond has driven through the years.
I don't think I could tell you a single one that he drove with Pierce Brosnan.
You don't know the Pierce Brosnan cars?
I don't think I could point one of them out and go, that was a cool car.
It was cool at the time. The problem with that, though, is that most people nowadays don't think that 90s cars are cool.
No, we only think about the Aston Martin.
Although I would argue the BMW Z8 was cool.
I will say that Aston Martin was cool.
Yeah, that was.
Which was, I think, that was in Spectre, wasn't it? He was driving it on that, like, that was like the cool car that Q made. And he's like, oh, you can't drive this. And then he stole it and borrowed
that's
it.
the DB10.
Yeah. Didn't you say there's like an SUV one that you hope to see in the new one?
I'd like to see it, but I don't think we will.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think that it's James Bond.
I mean, it could be for the villains, but they'll probably use Land Rovers for them.
You don't think this is a unique, cool car?
It's just a BMW.
It's not. It's a BMW Z8. It's a specific car made just for James Bond.
Okay, let me ask you. I don't know if you'll recognize this car.
That's a Citric. That's what I was just telling you. The 2C.
That looks dumb.
It was because he was in Europe.
Okay, but still, he's in Europe for most of the movies.
Yeah, he was in like small country Europe. I will say, so what's cool though, if some of these cars are wacky or whatever, but if you own Forza Horizon 4,
You get all.
you don't get all of them. They
You
don't
get
have all
most
of them,
of them.
but you get a good chunk of the fun ones. It's a great expansion to have some of these stupid cars. I have them because I'm a huge James Bond nerd.
If you couldn't tell.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell.
The only car that I fully recognize, even if I hadn't watched, like if I see the old one, like the old Aston Martin,
The DB5.
the one that I have a Lego set of,
Right.
I will recognize it at any point. I'll go, yes. There's only one thing I would want them to put in a new movie. Just have him have an ejector seat.
Have a DJ.
I'm mad. I'll see you at home.
What's cool though is James Bond practically saved Aston Martin by having that car in the movie.
And that's probably why. Wait, which one?
The DB5,
Oh.
way back when.
Way back when. I was about to say that's why they are letting Daniel Craig have any James Bond or any Aston Martin he wants.
Because when you see an Aston Martin, you
You
think
think
of James Bond.
And then you go,
And when you see James Bond, you think of an Aston Martin.
yeah,
And so
and a shaken martini.
and a shaken martini, yeah, and nice watches and nice suits. And so Aston Martin capitalized on that. In the 60s, Aston Martin looked like they were going to go under. And the DB5 is a terrible car. It
Yeah.
looks good, it's cool looking, but it can't turn to save its life. It's not even that fast.
Do you think that they've changed those kind of specs now?
Oh, newer
Okay,
Aston
maybe.
Martins are a lot better.
Yeah.
But even newer Aston Martins, though, to be honest, they're fast, but they're not that fast. They handle decently, but they don't handle that well. They're not. If it wasn't for James Bond, I don't think that they would still be in existence even today.
Right.
I think that James Bond pushes their sales, and they know that.
Yeah. If only someone could make Fiats cooler.
Well, I mean, they own Ferrari, so
Right. Wait, Fiat owns Ferrari?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's what the whole storyline was of Ford versus Ferrari.
mhm. So yeah, when you start looking at companies like that, you have to remember that sometimes it's not about your sub brand, your parent companies, but what did they build? So
Do you
Fiat,
think they have any Ferrari engines and Fiats?
no, but if you have an Abarth, they are tuned by Ferrari.
Hmm.
They put Ferrari engines and the other sub companies. You know who else Fiat owns?
Who?
Chrysler Group, which means they build your Dodge Demons and your
Ferrari
Hellcats.
engines.
No, not with Ferrari engines. They have Hemis in them, but most powerful Hemi in the world, 708 horsepower.
And that's where my brain goes out because cars and that kind of knowledge is not my thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of horsepower, just so you know.
But yeah, No Time to Die is going to be an interesting send off
Yeah,
for the character. And I can't wait to watch it more than once in theaters.
I might even watch it more than once in theaters.
Yeah, well, if you don't end up seeing it Thursday night, or if you do, let me know. And if you don't see it Thursday night and you see it Friday or Saturday, and I happen to get off of work, I'll go.
I might be going Saturday.
I'm gonna try to see how fast I can get my route done on Saturday.
Yeah, I just have to figure out a time.
Yeah, because you definitely won't have time between church and Pursuit on Sunday.
Nope.
Nope. Long movie. You could watch Quantum of Solace in between that.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, though, I think we're good today, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, thanks, Jay, for having me on.
Yep. We'll have to have you on maybe with Star Trek next time.
If Star Trek makes another movie, I'm definitely down to be on.
Or if I watch any of the Discovery or anything like that.
I don't know why you would do that.
Because you said it was good. And Picard,
Picard's good.
maybe Lower Decks.
Well, Picard's all right. Season 3 of Discovery is good.
What about 4? The 4 hasn't come out yet.
4 hasn't come out yet. Hopefully it's good. Season 1's bad. Season 2 is Meh,
I have to start it at some point if I want to watch the newer ones.
yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
But on that note, it's been a great episode. And we will see you guys, or well, I will see you guys on a regularly scheduled episode on Thursday. Bye.